Good morning. Welcome to the live, in-person, and live Zoom worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Riverside. Our doors are open and we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I'm Bonnie McFarland, a member of our worship committee, and I will be one of your worship associates today. Other members of the worship committee you will hear from include Grace Preuss, our master of the Zoom, Adam Wedeking, our church treasurer, and our music producer coordinator, Alec Peck. We welcome you to join us this lovely morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. There are a few changes to be aware of for those in the sanctuary. Our doors are open, but of course the pandemic is not over. So while we are here, please keep your masks on and socially distance. There is no singing or chanting inside these walls. We can speak in normal tones, but the extra force of exhalation when singing or chanting creates an increased risk with this airborne virus we are living with. So we invite those of you in the sanctuary to sit back and enjoy listening. For those of you at home, sing your hearts out. And so now I invite you to sit back and take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. For our call to worship, you are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. The call of our faith was a reflection given by Dr. Amin as part of the Side of Love Sunday worship service provided by the UUA that we were able to share with you on February 28th. This week, after the guilty verdict of former police chief Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd, I was struggling with conflicting emotions. I decided to go back and listen to her talk again. She addressed the call of our UU faith and the complexity of that call. She said, frankly, I'd feel better if we did less saying and more doing. But frankly, so much needs to be done, it can feel overwhelming. Kind of like watching the melting of the Arctic poles and wondering how much impact you have with your bottle and can recycling efforts in your electric car if you have one. Maybe that's where faith comes in. Or maybe that's where faith in the activism of our UU way comes in. Dr. Takia Nur Amin, who goes by the pronouns she, hers, and her, is the author of the piece, A Dance Scholar, educator, and consultant. Her research focuses on 20th century American dance concert, African diaspora performance aesthetics, and pedagogical issues in dance studies. She is currently content director and a member of the organizing collective. Dr. Amin is currently a professor in the Africana Studies at the Department of the College of Worcester. I think in Ohio, it's Worcester, unlike Worcester, as it would be pronounced where Joan Dardamus lives. Occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. Let us acknowledge that we walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original people of this land who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. In honor of the Kawiya, the Kitch, the Tongva, the Luiseno, the Copeño, and the Sereno, we, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to live out our dream of a world community of peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. We have a special chalice here to recognize special times. Last Monday, we lost a longtime member of our beloved congregation, Gail Woodbury. In honor and remembrance, we light this chalice. Today's reading of the lighting of the U chalice is a spark of hope. By Melanie Davis. If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice. Our opening hymn this morning is "I Wish I Knew How." For those in the sanctuary, please sit back and enjoy the hymn, but please do not sing along.
I wish I knew grace.
We have a tradition at UUCR. We like to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. But we know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others, and we wouldn't want to ask you to do something we wouldn't do. So I'm going to choose some unsuspecting soul who's been here a while to stand and tell us your name and how you first found out about our church. And Bill will come around with a freshly sanitized mic for each person. Do you have those? She has some. There you go. Okay. So while you're standing there, I am going to choose Grace.
My name is Grace. My kids all ask her from it. Coming to this church, we had activism. I sort of going for a while, and I realized that I'm actually in some spiritual creative. And I came to this church one day and heard, and I love her. And it's a media church company. There's 12 cultures and 4 from 20 families. There's really that going on here. And so that's why I'm here. And there are people here who are new or newly returned and would like to introduce yourself. Please stand or raise your hand or go to the front of the mic. My name is Councilor and we are definitely I was raised, especially like this. I'm not reading them. This is a community that we're incorporating and so we're very happy.
Welcome.
If there's anyone online who would like to introduce themselves, you would go to your chat. Enter the speak icon bar.
Looks like I may not have said that audibly. Okay, so if there's anybody online. Okay, Pat, go ahead.
Yes, I'm Pat Kawunder. We sadly lost a member of our church, Gail Woodbury, and yesterday Martha Caslow and Dave and Kay Mowry and I went to a memorial service for her at a friend's. It was a wonderful event, and her dear friend Yasmin made it. She's from Turkey, and she made us a piece. So it was a lovely occasion, full of people that she's rescued over the years. So I just wanted to share that. Good morning, everybody.
Okay, and we have a hello from Sorensen Home, but it doesn't have a name. Okay. If you aren't on our email list and haven't signed our visitors book in the parish hall, please do so before you leave so we can add you to our email list and can keep you updated on upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to our mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. Announcements are going to be presented to you by Grace.
Good morning. Hi. Thanks for joining us, everyone. My name is Grace, and there are a few announcements we'd like to share today. During the service, we will mention several website and email addresses and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all this information, and it is available on our website. However, for those needing the information by auditory means, they will be announced verbally during the service. Chat time provides an opportunity to spend an hour talking among ourselves, usually beginning with the service and then leading on to various topics. It's held on Zoom at 11:30 or a half hour after the service ends if we run late. To participate in person, location will be determined depending on number of participants and safety per pandemic regulations. To participate online, you will need a separate Zoom link. So please go to our website at uuchurchofriverside.org for the Zoom chat time link. Please be patient as we are working through this transition. Sharing joys and concerns is one of the important rituals in our community. Now that our doors are open again, on the first Sunday of each month, we can hear from those in the sanctuary and also read the contributions we have received. Also, in front of the pulpit, there is a book where you can write your joys and concerns whenever you are here in the sanctuary. Our next Joys and Concerns will be on May 2nd. For those of you at home, you can send your joys and concerns throughout the month to our Caring Network coordinator. Please call or text them to Dinah at 909-645-2885 or email them to ramblinrose22@yahoo.com. The monthly UUCR newsletter comes out the first of every month by email and per request by postal mail. Would you like something covered or would you like to write something for it? Let Dinah know at ramblinrose22@yahoo.com or call or text her at 909-645-2885. If you haven't received the newsletter and would like to be added to our mailing list, please contact Dinah or the church office. And now we'll have Adam Wedeking, Chair of the Social and Environmental Justice Committee, make a few comments.
Good morning. I've got a couple Social and Environmental Justice Committee announcements. First of all is our meeting first and third Sundays of the month. So our next meeting is going to be May 2nd at 1 p.m. We're doing them in the hall and on Zoom, so you can join either way. And then one quick announcement, there is an election for City Council happening in the city of Riverside. The League of Women Voters is holding a forum for Ward 2. So everyone is invited to go. You can go on our social justice webpage, uuchurchofriverside.org, click on justice, click on social and environmental justice, go down there and take action and look for that flyer there. There's a link there where you can submit questions if you have specific questions you'd like to ask the candidates, and there's a link there to register for the meeting. It's going to be on Zoom, free. Everybody is invited to join. Find out who these folks are that are running. They're going to be holding another one for Ward 4. Ward 6 also has an election, but there's just one guy on the ballot, so there probably won't be a forum of him talking to himself. So that's it for social and environmental justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. COVID. Riverside County has moved down to a medium risk level. The infection rate is 0.94, which means COVID is still spreading, but more slowly. 35.6% of the people in the state are fully vaccinated, and about 21% of those in Riverside County are fully vaccinated. Come on, Riverside. That explains why Riverside County is considered to be more vulnerable than 79% of US counties. Specific vulnerabilities are minority and non-English speaking populations, health system challenges, population density, unemployment and low income, and housing and transportation issues. Vaccinations are now available for all Californians aged 16 and up. You can make an appointment at vaccine.ca.gov or at covid19.ca.gov or many pharmacies and other places. If you aren't vaccinated, do a search. It's available. Our hymn now is Spirit of Life. If you are in the sanctuary, I invite you to sit back, close your eyes, and listen.
See
Our meditation for today is Fierce Urgency by Ashley Horan. My 4-year-old daughter taught me this lesson. When a child wants to derail business as usual, to curb the hubris of adults who dare to believe in schedules and plans and productivity, one fierce little body and one clear, piercing voice, strategically applied to the right pressure point, will change the course of the day's events. My comrades in organizing have taught me this lesson. When a silenced people want to be heard, to raise from dry bones a living, breathing dream of new ways of moving, being, incarcerating freedom, one small, tenacious group whose hearts beat in rhythm, rising shoulder to shoulder against the inevitable, will bend the arc from impossibility to hope. Our young climate leaders are teaching us this lesson. When grown-ups and the old movements are too slow, as the sea level rise and the hurricanes rage and the migrants flee and the corporations profit, one generation, both young and silenced, refusing to accept an inheritance of doom, will take toward the streets and move us toward life. Blessings upon them as they teach us, organize us, beckon us in, and call us out. May their fierce urgency and uncompromising clarity show us the path toward healing and freedom and hope. Blessed be, Ashe and Amen. Now let us pause for a moment of silence. I'm going to read a selection entitled The Call of Our Faith by Dr. Takia Nur Amin. In every moment, life is giving us an invitation. I really believe that. I really believe that in every moment, life is giving us an invitation to do the things that are the most loving and life-affirming. And that doing the loving and life-affirming thing is always the answer when you don't know what to do, when you're feeling unsure. There's always a moment of invitation to rethink or reevaluate. We're being invited into this cosmic dance of renewal and joy and justice, but you have to make the justice. It doesn't just show up without our participation, without our effort. Things don't get better just by waiting for us waiting for them to happen. We all have to engage in the better making from wherever we are. And each moment presents an invitation for us to do that. I don't want us to forget that. Even if, like me, you are tired or feeling frustrated or feeling unsure, the invitation to participate in a manner that is about living our values, living, love, and justice is still there no matter what else is going on. Ask yourself, what's the most loving, life-affirming thing I can do in this moment for myself or for other people? Sometimes it's get some rest. Sometimes it's apologize for something you've done. Sometimes it's reconsider how you're using your money or other resources in the broader world. To me, if we're talking about racial justice, love is about acknowledging that there has been wrong, that there has been harm perpetrated, and that whether you feel personally like you participated in it or not, you are likely benefiting from the inequitable results of that harm. Even if you're a person who wants to say, well, I didn't participate in making things this way. If you are benefiting from the ill-gotten gains, then you have some responsibility to make things right, especially if you didn't turn around and say that you believe in justice and equity. You are not let off the hook, no matter what. When we have broader conversations about reparations or what it looks like to repair, particularly the harms that have been done to Indigenous communities, Black communities, other communities of color, I believe that love means thinking about the resources that enable life. So what does reparation look like at the intersection of communities of color and healthcare, or communities of color and education? What does it look like to have those kinds of conversations beyond just conversations about money and land that is owed, but also accessing resources that have been inequitably distributed for more than a century? All of us should have a hand in those conversations, and all of us have some responsibility to bring about justice in those contexts. Plainly, if you're not going to do that work, if you're not going to be committed to thinking about that, how you can serve in that work, it obfuscates the mandate of what it really means to be Unitarian Universalist. Because ours is a faith that calls us to do things. Being Unitarian Universalist in part means maybe you don't pray the way I pray, maybe you don't pray at all, but how do we live together in equitable community, so despite what I might think about God or you might think about God? This is a faith that causes us to commit to the work of making justice. This is a faith that calls us to think about what it means, not to believe the same, but to live together in beloved community, despite our own discrete perspectives about spirituality or the afterlife. That is a part of the call, the mandate of what it is to be Unitarian Universalist, to figure out how we live together in loving, equitable, just relationship with each other. I believe that the proof of our faith is the extent to which we do that. The proof of our faith is not in some confession that we make. The proof of our faith is not in some words that we say. The essence of our endeavor, the proof of what we believe, is in how we do the work of bringing about love, justice, and community. As Unitarian Universalists, I think we've given up perhaps too quickly on notions of salvation. If we think about the notion of being saved from harm, I don't know that it's actually possible to have personal salvation beyond community. There is no way for you to have salvation and some kind of perfect, flourishing life outcome while everything around you is suffering and burning. Because we're all connected. We are. If COVID hasn't reaffirmed in your mind that we're all connected, I really don't know what to tell you. Here we are right now, suffering through a global pandemic together. People are passing a deadly virus to each other through our breath that we can't see. That's a metaphor for us all being connected, if I've ever heard one. I think it's something we would do well to think about and remember. Our salvation is intimately tied up in each other's ability to see other people as worthwhile, all human beings as valuable and possessing dignity, all life as having value and possessing dignity. And that's not the same as liking me. This is not, I need you to like me. This is not, I need us to be best friends so we can go to the shopping mall together. This is, understand that I have as much of a right to human thriving and flourishing as anybody else, and that I have as much to offer as anyone else. And so do you. How do we create a context where all of that is possible? Where all that human driving and life is possible? That's going to require sacrifice and time and deep listening and nuance. But that's what being a Unitarian Universalist requires. Other faith traditions ask for other things. This is what Unitarian Universalism asks of us. This is what we signed up for. And to me, this is serious. The call of our faith is critical right now. Our faith is not one of anything goes. When I hear people say, I'm a UU because I can believe whatever I want, that's actually the farthest thing from the truth. It's time to lean into whether or not we really believe it. Or are we just saying it to give ourselves the illusion of a faith community so we can feel like we have some kind of faith tradition? Do we really believe in the values of our faith enough to enact them in the larger world in a manner that is bold and clear and unequivocal? People need to know, especially in this moment, what our commitments are. And if we're going to say that we are a faith that is committed to justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, we have to actually do that. It's not just about saying the thing. We actually have to do the thing. Frankly, I'd feel better if we did less saying and more doing. I need us to have the collected maturity now to do what it is that our faith asks us to do. Amen, Amin, Asay. I could have played the video of the author giving this piece, delivering it when she delivered this reflection. In fact, you have seen her deliver it if you were with us in February for the Side with Love Sunday worship service that UUA provided for us on Zoom. As I read this, it occurred to me, it might sound very different coming from me, someone you're used to seeing up here, red hair, melanin deficient. So it might sound different than it sounded coming from her. In fact, we interpret so much about a person from our interpretation of their appearance. Our beliefs and expectations, conscious or not, help us interpret the world. Most of the time, that's a good thing. In fact, it's necessary for survival. But it can also create great problems for societies striving for justice and equality, and for individuals in stressful situations trying to know how to react. I'm going to reread one small part of Dr. Amin's piece and then show her reading it. To me, if we're talking about racial justice, love is about acknowledging that there has been wrong, that there has been harm perpetuated, and that whether you personally feel like you participated in it or not, you are likely benefiting from the inequitable results of that harm. Even if you are a person who wants to say, well, I didn't participate in making things this way, you are benefiting from the ill-gotten gains. Then you have had some responsibility to make things right, especially if you didn't turn around and say that you believe in justice and equality. You are not let off the hook, no matter what. Now let's listen to the author of this piece saying those same words.
If we're talking about race and justice, love is about acknowledging that there has been wrong, that there has been harm perpetrated, and that whether you personally feel like you participated in it or not, you are likely benefiting from the inequitable results of that harm. Even if you are a person who wants to say, well, I didn't participate in making things this way, if you are benefiting from the ill-gotten gains, then you have some responsibility to make things right, especially if you then turn around and say that you believe in justice and equity. You are not let off the hook, no matter what.
Did you hear it any differently from the two of us? Do you notice yourself responding any differently? Well, if you're very self-reflective, you might. Dr. Amin don't look too much alike, but Dr. Amin is a doctor and a UU minister, and she speaks very UU-ish, if you know what I mean, measured, intellectual, safe. I think her style is softer than mine, but that's my perception. I'm going to show you some other images with the same words. Read them while looking at the image. Do you hear any of them differently? Do they feel different? Any of them seem more like UUs to you than others? Any seem to have voices that you would expect to be softer, angrier, more wise or thoughtful? Any differences that you noticed reflecting pre-existing assumptions about that kind of person, however you define that category to be? We make assumptions about others, and we can and do automatically fill in what we think they will sound like, what their attitudes are likely to be about some things, whether we think they fall into the like me category or not. Some of our assumptions go much further, like, are they educated, likely to be hostile or friendly, pleasant, or should I cross the street? I've thought a lot about these assumptions we make and how easily we chart a course based on those assumptions. This week, the airways have been filled with the trial of Derek Chauvin and found him guilty of the murder of George Floyd. Odd that I still hear it described as the George Floyd trial sometimes. After hearing the testimony of other officers, supervisors, trainers, and experts, and endlessly watching the videos, I can't attribute Derek's actions to implicit bias or overzealous policing. It was just clearly, to me and to the jury, intentional murder. But there are other cases where it's much more mixed. There is considerable research showing that police act more forcefully, that they feel more anxiety and fear when interacting with Black suspects than they do with white suspects. No, you need only think about the cases we have all heard about over the past few years, even the past few weeks, of suspects, Black suspects who were shot in the back while running away, who were shot with their hands up, who were shot trying to drive away after a traffic violation, which is not a capital offense, and on and on. Yet the cases, if you pay attention, they don't get as much press of violent, armed white suspects being talked down, even forced down, and taken into custody without harm. Those are also numerous and stand in stark contrast. There is no way to say all of these are because of any one thing. Humans are far too diverse. Some are just racist cops who found a great job. Others are undoubtedly unconscientious cops who, without understanding the underlying unconscious bias behind it, react differently to people depending on the group they put them in, like me or not like me. I listened a number of times to the recent recording of the officer who shouted, "Taser, taser, taser," before mistakenly shooting the suspect with a gun. The suspect was trying to drive away. There's much speculation about the fact that a gun feels and looks so unlike a taser. But what struck me was the tone of her voice. It was not calm and control, but what rather she sounded like it was a very high stress situation, and you don't think clearly in such situations. There was the officer last week who shot the 13-year-old boy after running after him down the alley and ordering him to stop and put his hands up. Looked like a high adrenaline situation from the video. The boy finally did as he was told. The cop misinterpreted the reaction, oddly, and shot him. Happens over and over. So the injustice haunts me. The helplessness I feel is often overwhelming, like the feeling I get when separating my trash into 3 bins, then listening to a program about the magnitude of the environmental problems. I know our UU faith is all about addressing these questions. As Dr. Amin said, this is what we signed up for. The call of our faith is critical right now. So I decided I would look one more place for some solace and some guidance. I'm going to read you this piece from the UUA. We speak George Floyd's name, dated April 21st this year. Yesterday's verdict was a rare moment of police accountability. Our hearts go out to George Floyd's family. We mourn as his community mourns, and as they look to find some degree of solace in this verdict. The jury sent a clear message that police are not above the law. This is an indictment of the system of policing that allowed Chauvin to murder an unarmed and defenseless man in broad daylight before witnesses. This is a time of national reckoning. Our Unitarian Universalist faith demands that we speak George Floyd's name in remembrance of his life and recognize every Black person who has been harassed, assaulted, or murdered by police. We pray this moment opens the door to a new era in this country, one in which there are always real consequences for police violence and misconduct. We must work in solidarity with the Black leaders and organizers who have long been fighting for accountability and justice. America is grappling with the reality that our system of policing cannot be truly reformed. We need a fundamental divestment of police spending and a reinvestment in our communities and a shared vision of safety. The time is now. The time of piecemeal and ineffective reforms must end. Policing in this country remains deeply broken. When lives like George Floyd's are stolen, there cannot be justice through the legal system. Accountability is only the first action towards systemic change. This verdict does not end institutional racism or the long history of lethal over-policing. At its origin, our nation's policing was designed to hunt down enslaved people who were running towards freedom and organizing to resist. We need a different system of public safety, one that recognizes the humanity of all people at its foundation. Like so many law enforcement officers before him, Derek Chauvin thought that without consequences, he could keep his knee on the neck of a prone man who was begging for his life. We acknowledge and honor the 12 Minneapolis citizens who proved him wrong. Chauvin's murder conviction is an unmistakable message that the people will not tolerate the police abuse and killing of Black people with impunity. America's system of policing is designed to preserve itself at all costs. This unusual breach of the blue wall of silence only underlines how invested the system is in portraying this as a case of bad apples, a specious attempt to divert attention from the rottenness of the entire institution of policing. The culture of law enforcement is so fundamentally dysfunctional that even under intense global scrutiny, police cannot refrain from enacting violence against Black, brown, and indigenous people. During the Chauvin trial, we witnessed several more police assaults and murders of Black people across the country. In close proximity, these assaults included 20-year-old Dwayne Wright, who was shot and killed after being pulled over for having air fresheners hanging from his rearview mirror. And as the jury was returning to the courtroom, police in Columbus, Ohio, shot and killed a 15-year-old Black girl. The natural response to this unceasing assault on Black lives is righteous anger and profound grief. Yet as protesters nationally continue to demonstrate against police violence, they will likely be met with the all too familiar state-sanctioned violence and militarization. The UUA unequivocally supports the right of the people to gather in protest without being subjected to repression and violence. Our Unitarian Universalist faith compels us to join all those who are striving to establish true structures of safety, stability, and freedom for all people. Our traditions, principles, including our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every human being, move us to work together to build the anti-oppressive world we imagine, where everyone can be safe and everyone can thrive. And as Jean-Luc Picard would say, make it so. Our closing hymn is the Fire of Commitment. Those in the sanctuary, please sit back, close your eyes, and enjoy.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of the living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion lead to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
For our benediction, I'm going to read Do Not Fear Agitation by Tanya Marquez. Do not fear agitation, for agitation is the rhythm of life itself, to be put into motion, to be stirred. Do not fear the movements that decenter what you have always thought permanent. You carry within the center of your understanding the compass to show you the way. Carry with you the love that will hold you, the vision that will guide you, the relationships to all beings and the world that will ground you. Go in peace and in gentle agitation to stir this world to the side of love. Namaste, Amen, and blessed be.